Halo 2 on Legendary. Halo 2 on Legendary has a reputation for being one of the hardest gaming challenges out there. It's really, really hard and has a lot of BS. I'm a frog, but I'm also a masochist, so I wanted to do something even tougher than just regular Halo 2 Legendary. A challenge so hard it makes regular Halo 2 Legendary look like Viva Pinata. I don't even know what that means. I'm talking, of course, since you read the title, about LASO. LASO stands for Legendary All Skulls On. Skulls just being various game modifiers. There are 14 skulls in total in the official playlist for the LASO achievement, and unfortunately for us, they make the already stupidly hard Halo 2 Legendary difficulty way, way harder. So let's hop in. Our journey begins at a local bingo hall where a bunch of old people and a gorilla put Keith David on trial for letting Halo get blown up. But speaking of Halo, we cut to the man himself getting a brand new suit, and the playable game starts with me looking at lights. Along with the light test, this tutorial also involves taking our shields down to test them, but we actually fail the shield test because later when I was standing on Johnson's head, you could still hear them beeping and not recharging. That's because of the black eye skull that makes it so your shields don't recharge unless you kill an enemy with a melee. The beeping is my only indicator that I don't have shields though, because I can't actually see them due to the blind skull that disables your HUD, including the motion tracker, reticle, grenade and ammo counter, and doesn't even let you see your own weapon. But we carry on anyway and go on a tram ride with Johnson, and this dude's doing the weird whistle with two fingers thing. Lizard Boy gets branded like a cow. Rita from Dexter gets a medal because her dad died while a crowd of clones watches. Master Chief needs a weapon, and it's showtime on Cairo Station, the first level where bad guys are actually trying to kill me. My troubles began in the very first room. I did have a strategy, which was to hide up top and jump down below after the enemies came through, but this didn't work at all, and the enemies immediately noticed me, largely because of the That's Just Wrong skull that increases enemy awareness of the player. Unless you're either completely blind or just listening to this in the background while doing other things, which makes me question why I even bother to edit visuals, you also probably notice that the enemies are all invisible, which is an effect of the assassin skull. My second attempt, I waited longer and snuck around and did get a couple enemies taken out before once again getting wrecked. You'll never guess what happened here on my third attempt. My fourth attempt, I took out the grunts, and then the elites went full meltdown mode and pulled out their swords. The Thunderstorm skull makes all enemies the highest rank, and yeah, white elites love whipping out their swords in public. Thankfully for me, they were really focused on Johnson and the other Marines and paid me no mind. I did learn that it took 2 plasma overcharges instead of 1 to take down their shields, presumably because of the mythic skull, which doubles enemy health. Now let me tell you, the worst thing about this entire challenge was the constant beeping for my shields not recharging. But here I was able to stop it for a second at least by backsmacking this elite that was bullying Johnson. I was thrown off for a second because this Marine on the turret was shooting at me, and then I realized it wasn't a Marine, it was an elite. I didn't even know that they could do that. In the next area, I got killed by an elite even though he was clearly swinging his sword in the complete opposite direction of me, but regardless, one skull I haven't even mentioned yet is Iron, which in solo restarts the entire level if you die, as you can see from this earlier example. But a workaround for this is just saving and quitting real fast, which you bet your sweet bippy I did, because that skull is complete BS. On co-op, it doesn't restart the whole level. Why should I be punished for not having friends? I mean, for choosing to play alone. My next try, the elite just rushed me like an idiot, so I was able to hit him in the back for an insta-kill before moving downstairs and getting destroyed. One issue I kept having was swiping elites in the back with a sword instead of just punching them. The sword works, obviously, but I don't get shields for that. The problem is that I was scared. I died again and again and again, but then I somehow managed to ninja one elite and take out the other two, and onward I charged. There were a couple more elites to take out and a few grunts, but I just plasma pistol BR'd them, which in hindsight was stupid because I had no shields as I entered the next part, the hangar. The problem with the hangar is that there are a bunch of elites and grunts, and because of the catch skull, which makes enemies toss and drop more grenades, the grunts just chuck grenades at you the entire time. I tried a number of strategies, like noob comboing the elites, which kind of worked until all my Marines were dead and the attention shifted entirely to me. I tried sticking the elites. The problem with this is that I didn't have a reticle because of blind and couldn't hit a stick to save my life. After one of these resets, I decided to turn on the game timer for medals and to give a better idea of how long this took. Note though, every time I save and quit, the timer resets to where it was when I first got the checkpoint. So like this says about 9 minutes, but actually I was 35 minutes in at this point. But still, at one point I tried jumping down and had the single scariest moment of my entire life. I don't know how I survived, but the other elites quickly made sure to fix that. I had a lot of deaths here, and I mean a lot. This hangar alone seriously made me rethink even doing this video. I almost quit. Especially after one of these deaths, I just wasn't thinking and didn't save and quit, which meant I had to go all the way back to the start of the level. So I killed these guys and some more guys here, and oh man, even more coming up here. He's on the turret again, Zooey mama. Ouch, I died. Oh, I guess I saved and quit too late, because look at that, I'm back at the start. Fuck! Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is?
Hey, Frog, you should do a Halo 2 LASO video. It'd be so fun. Oh.
Alright, you know what? Screw this. I was so mad by Mercer Mayor. I wanted to keep some frogs in the bathtub, but Mom wouldn't let me. I was so mad. Okay, I killed everyone and the hangar was up next, but I didn't have shields and really wanted them, and I knew about this box you could punch that gives you shields back at the start of the level, so I turned around and ran all the way back to this box and started punching it. It killed me. I got killed by a box. But my next life, I killed everyone and preserved my shield, so we were back in the hangar. I once again tried the old noob combo and six strat to not great results, but I did learn that if I stuck an elite, he would pull out a sword and stop shooting. One other thing I used to my advantage was the anger skull, which makes enemies shoot faster. The problem with that for the Covenant is that plasma weapons overheat, so shooting faster means more overheating and a chance for me to pop out and land a stick. But still, this stupid hangar was exactly that. I spent another half hour in here. I pulled up a guide from Halo Completionist, also known as Silver, where he said to try to stick the elites from over here, and yeah, that worked better than where I was before, and I managed to get every elite to pull their sword out and not shoot and could take them out with the noob combo. Another LASO person you probably know is Jervalen, the winner of Moist Critical's Halo 2 LASO Deathless Challenge, who I saw come to this spot where elites can't see you for some reason, which gave me a chance to backsmack the last guy for shields. There's one more Covenant squad to take out, then we come to Hangar 2, which I learned has a really dumb strat. So there's these plasma turrets up top, which you may think are worthless, but actually what you can do is move a box in front of one so that when you jump on the turret, you're inside the box and the Covenant can't see you. So you can just take them all out. That was the attempt where I actually got it. I had my fair share of deaths just trying to set that up. The last elite hid behind a box where I couldn't get him, so I had to jump down and take care of him, which was really nerve-wracking. Not sure how that happens, but yeah. After slowly working my way through the next group of enemies, I had to deal with a couple of stealth elites that weren't white for whatever reason, which you'd expect would make them easy to deal with, but I'm bad. This big room had a ton of enemies, so I had a choice. At first, I tried hopping up and running past everyone and jumping through a window. Unfortunately, I'm also bad at jumping and missed. My second attempt, I just flat out got shot to death, and my third attempt, I missed my jump and got shot to death anyway, which led me to reevaluate and decide to clear this room entirely and then jump through the window so there'd only be a couple guys from the next hallway shooting me. I missed the jump and died. My next attempt, I got impatient again and decided to just go for it right off the bat, and this time I actually got it. The next fight is easy because you have Marines with you drawing the Covenant's fire, then the jetpack elites in space are still blue, so you're able to just easily noob combo them. Then I pushed up to fight a bunch of buggers from Ender's Game, which were actually way easier than I expected. The guys on the elevator weren't too bad. There's some more flying guys outside. Then the last room has quite a few elites guarding the bomb, so I may need to get creative. Unfortunately, I was voted in my high school class as least creative, so what I did instead was noob combo and try to hit sticks. It took a couple tries for sure, but at this point, I was much more competent when it came to killing enemies than when I started. A cutscene starts where Master Chief delivers a bomb to the Covenant, Ted Kaczynski style, but more importantly, that means level 1 is finished. The post-game timer says 56:27, but for reference, that level actually took me a little over 4 hours. Not a fun time. Now on Earth, Cortana intercepts a message from the Covenant that just repeats regret, regret, regret. With how easily she intercepted that message, I bet the Covenant regret not taking their online privacy seriously. But with this video sponsor, NordVPN, who helped make this video possible, you can protect yourself online. Thank you, NordVPN.
You're welcome.
Say you're playing a Slayer match and you dominate someone and they're super salty and they say, "I'm gonna find where you live." Well, I got my NordVPN set to the other side of America, so good luck with that, little bro. But NordVPN isn't just about hiding your IP address. They also have something called Threat Protection Pro. Say you come across a file online that you want to download, but for whatever reason you aren't 100% sure that it's safe. NordVPN will scan it for you and let you know for sure if it is safe or if it isn't safe. They'll also scan links, block pop-ups, and stop other unwanted web trackers. With their dark web monitor, if my password, best YouTube frog, gets leaked online, I'll know. Wait a minute. So go to nordvpn.com/frogarchist and sign up for an account to get a massive discount on a 2-year plan, plus get 4 months extra on top of it. And there's zero risk involved. Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/frogarchist. It really is a great deal, so if you don't have a VPN, or maybe you don't like your current VPN, or whatever your reason, please consider it. And thank you very much to Nord for sponsoring this video. The good thing about the next level Outskirts is that you can skip about half of the level entirely with a skip that's so easy my grandma can do it. You literally just jump on a light and up again and find yourself on the rooftops where you can just run past everything until you reach the Hotel Zanzibar. There's an elite you can easily backsmack and some grunts and then some more guys at the end of the hallway, then some more guys outside. None of this was that bad, honestly, but unfortunately for me, the Warthog I was supposed to get in got blown up. So I had to improvise and jump down to take this ghost and try to drive past everything in it, which is a lot harder than in the Warthog. At least it probably should have been, except I got got past everything my very first attempt. Easy. Once you get in the tunnel, a warthog spawns in that I decided to take because it would be stupid not to, and I tried to abuse one of the benefits of the Black Eye Skull. So the skull recharges your shields when you kill enemies with melees, but if your shields are already full, you can actually get over shields by killing more enemies with melees. This also works for destroying objects like a ghost. So I meleeed a couple ghosts to death, and as you can see, I have an overshield now. A bad skull that came into play here was the Sputnik skull, which messes with the physics and makes every object have a lower mass. This means you can do crazy grenade jumps and stuff, but for now all it was doing was making it harder for me to drive the warthog. I was slipping and sliding and flipping all over the place. This entire part was just me driving past stuff over and over until I got lucky and lived. There are more trucks and cars and stuff you can melee for shields too throughout the tunnel, which is helpful and I did take advantage of. But yeah, driving through everything is still way harder than on normal legendary. Stuff like this would happen where I just couldn't drive at all anymore with the jank physics because I was being shot too much. Eventually, through sheer determination, willpower, and a desire to finish before the 12 o'clock NFL window so I could watch Scott Hansen, I persevered and made it through. The next level starts with a cutscene featuring Michelle Rodriguez and the less talented half of Mr. Show with Bob and David before we go on our merry way, which is honestly a poor expression for the mood I was in at this point, but despite me being a zoomer, I can't help but use expressions people said in the 50s. It's also funny that I'm plainly saying the 50s, given that we're much closer to the 2050s than the 1950s, so in the near future, we'll be having to clarify which 50s we're talking about. In other words, you're old. So the strat on the opening here is to drive a warthog all the way into the tunnel, then drive back around across the bridge where all the enemies that were here are now despawned, then take the tank and bring it into the tunnel. I drove the tank where you're not supposed to be able to get it and hung back and shellacked everyone. This was a very comfy strat. Now back in the great outdoors, I backsmacked this jackal, then because of the Sputnik skull, we can do a big old grenade jump. Except I suck, so I had to save and quit. But my next try I got it, and then I walked a bit further and did a grenade rocket jump. Using the powers of levitation, walking on invisible geometry, I walked along this way towards where the scarab was headed, and when he got close enough, I boarded him. The problem is that he despawns, but before that happens, you have to melee a couple spots on him for shields and run down below to avoid death, but I was too slow and died. After messing up the jumps a couple times, I got back to the scarab, and this time made it and commenced fourth. British. There's a trigger you have to walk to over here, then another rocket nade jump over here. In the last area, there's this despawn thing where you kind of just push up, then go back around, and then wait some more, and more, until magically all the enemies are gone or dead or something, and I could just push up to the Marine hideout. From there, it was easy. I just shot rockets at the Scarab, boarded, and took my time taking out the elites inside to finish the level. The Scarab gets blown up, Johnson calls them mothers, Regret's ship jumps to slip space, and we follow along, and that's Metropolis. It's followed by a cutscene that hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in 2004 skip past, only to be very confused after, but basically the most evil person in the Covenant makes the elite from earlier an Arbiter, which is nerd speak for I now get to play as him. Unlike Master Chief, who has a flashlight, the Arbiter has active camouflage, which temporarily makes him invisible. There is a skull called the Envy Skull that gives Chief this ability too, but it's not in the official LASO playlist because 343 is sadistic. This level took me a while because I was very stupid with my strategy. Like, mega stupid. The first group of enemies I just snuck past, which also despawns other enemies, so there's just no one here, and I took the elevator down to the hangar. I wanted to sneak to the other side so I could press the button to open the hangar doors and get reinforcements using my active camo as well as head glitching. Basically, enemies can only see you if they can see your head, so if you stick your big Arbiter head into a wall, you're effectively invisible. The problem with this strategy was that the LASO enemies were very, very alert, so the second I popped out, I would pretty much just get instantly melted. I spent about 20 minutes here just dying over and over again trying to get to the button for the hangar. As opposed to the previous level where I mostly just copied Halo Completionist, this level was a result of me trying to come up with my own strats and being very bad. Eventually though, I did manage to make it to the button and successfully head glitch my way to safety to allow the friendly Phantom to enter. From there, the hangar was all about taking my time and shooting enemies. I did realize that the heretics were not in fact white elites, which meant a single plasma overcharge would take down their shields and make noob combos much easier, and after that the level itself became easy. I worked my way through the hallways and shot the bad guys who were actually kind of good guys, but in the context of me trying to get this video done before October, they were very bad. The best was that sometimes when I stuck a heretic, they'd rage and drop their gun and go to pull out their sword. The problem is that they don't have swords, so they would just run at me with an empty fist and serve as a living punching bag. Eventually, I worked my way outside to a Banshee where you're supposed to fly around with the Phantom and look for the heretic leader, but if you know where he is already, you can just fly right there. So that's exactly what I did, and the level was over. Halfjaw shows up and smells something rancid, and despite my first guess being Redditors, it was actually just almost as bad, the Flood. I've heard people, and by people I mean Cambid, refer to this level as Boracle, and that's a very fitting title for what you're about to witness. BS. To start, I killed infection forms. Then I ran onto the elevator and ran back into the starting room and waited a couple minutes. Next, I ran back to the elevator, which causes it to drop, and jumped back up where I waited a couple more minutes. I did a couple drops. The first lets me get onto the top part of the elevator, then I do a second drop onto the lower part of the elevator, then a drop down off the elevator towards where I need to go, then one more drop to get to the final platform. There are a couple flood to take out, then I waited for the elevator to finish coming down, went into the next room, dropped down, grabbed ammo, and parkoured back up to the elevator where I had to wait for over 10 minutes. I'm not exaggerating, over 10 minutes. I decided to pass this time with my dog. It's a couch, you can't dig through it. After waiting the 10 minutes, I could run back to the other room where the door to progress was now open and I could just walk through. Now, outside, there's some cool jumps you can do to avoid enemy spawns, so I did those and wound up inside where, after killing a few Flood and Sentinels, the Heretic leader locked himself away, my elite friends practiced levitation, and even though the level was only halfway over in length, this is basically the end. Because after the cutscene, I could run up to the elevator and press the button to start it twice, so that it would come down on top of me and crush me and launch me up. This makes you invincible the remainder of the mission. So for the rest of Oracle, I could literally just run through everything and just let people attack me. I didn't have to worry about dying. And thank God the invincibility glitch is a thing, because otherwise the boss fight against the Heretic leader would have sucked, but you know, it's easy. Now, if you have a problem with me doing that, even though literally everyone who plays this game on LASO does it and you think it's cheating, please send your complaints to feedback@frogarcus.com and use the subject line, "I'm a dumbass." Speaking of sucking, we found another Halo ring and I started the level Delta Halo by trying to team kill one of my ODSTs to recharge my shields and accidentally pushed him off the map, and that's how I got my first restart. But thankfully, Delta Halo is pretty easy. You do some walking and get up to places you're not supposed to be able to go, and then I fought a couple of the bad guys and pushed a button, walked some more, found a ghost, and did some more out-of-bounds driving. This goes on for quite a while and lets you skip basically the entire mission. There is one scary part where you have to go down and hit a trigger that spawns a couple sniper jackals, and it's a good thing I had overshields, because after spawning them in and carrying on, I thought I was safe. One of them actually managed to snipe me and I now had no shields. In front of the temple, thanks to my terrible driving, another one finished the job. My second try, I parked the ghost by the door, and there's a really funny strat here. You bait the elites out and camp by the ghost, and their dumb AI behavior should make them ignore you and try to get in the ghost, which makes backsmacking them easy. Unless you're like me and miss and let them get in the ghost, in which case there's an issue. My next attempt, I got extraordinarily lucky. I took out most of the elites, including one who drove the ghost inside, and tried to rush the last guy who had me dead to rights. Except he decided to ignore me and jump on the ghost himself, allowing me to end his bloodline and finish Delta Halo. Unfortunately, the next level is Regret. Aptly named because at this point, I regretted ever starting a YouTube channel. But the opening I expected to be super hard, and it actually was easy. There are a few white elites that spawn in, but giving them a little slap Sean Connery style was easy enough. Outside, there are a few jackal snipers to take out. The problem was I didn't have a reticle. Prior to this, I was doing nothing to simulate having a reticle, but it was this level and this part especially that finally got me to concede and put a piece of tape on my monitor with a black dot where the center of the reticle would be, so that I had some kind of an indicator where I was aiming. They still got me from time to time, but this obviously made getting them much easier. But basically, a few things needed to happen here for me. I had to take out every jackal sniper. There were like 5 or 6. Then I had to do a grenade jump. After that, there was this tricky jump where you have to time it literally perfect. Pulling these 3 things off in one run was a struggle. This took me about the same amount of time as Hangar 1 on Cairo. Either I'd get sniped, or I'd mess up the grenade jump, or I'd pull those 2 things off and botch the last jump. I knew this level would be bad, but I was stuck just on the beginning. Eventually, I did finally make the last jump, and then you have to hit a trigger, which spawns a bunch of enemies, but there are grenades you can pre-throw to make it more survivable, and I ran back to the gondola, and we're home free. Except for this opening, I was following along with Halo Completionist and watching his guide as I went through. And he mentioned that this entire time I was supposed to just be meleeing in the air to delay a checkpoint to get a giant despawn to work. But I didn't hear him say this in his guide until I was like way past the point where I needed to be meleeing to delay the checkpoint, so I didn't get the despawn, which meant I had a tough decision to make. Okay, snipe the jackals, hit the grenade jump. Someone in the comments on the guide mentioned you can literally just jump from the windowsill instead, which is incredibly easy as opposed to incredibly difficult. Throw the nades, run to the gondola. Son of a bitch. Don't botch the nades, don't botch the nades, don't botch the nades. Okay, that time I got an overkill and I was barely even shot, and this time you can see my camera shaking because I was meleeing to delay the checkpoint and get the despawn. The Phantom disappeared, which means we're good. We are so back. So there's no enemies on either gondola, and there's no one at the next building we go to. Until you get inside, there's a few jackals to deal with, but they're no big deal. There's supposed to be drone spawns too, but just by standing up top, you prevent them. I killed everyone and got some marine reinforcements, and we went in an underwater elevator. I then killed my marine buddies for shields. No hard feelings. The underwater part was easy. I shot some room, guys. This room would be the worst in the game if you had to clear it, but fortunately you don't. You just run through it. There's some more dudes to kill, and then we're in another elevator. The next couple bits, there's honestly not anything interesting to talk about. It's more just killing guys and staying patient. There's a bunch of drones and elites and jackals, and it's tough, but yeah, it's ultimately just about shooting stuff and not being dumb. Afterwards, I got more reinforcements who I promptly murdered for shields again, jumped up a tree, and made it to yet another gondola. At this gondola, I just head glitched in a corner. This works like head glitching as the Arbiter, except Chief's head is obviously smaller, so it's a little trickier. And at one point, the Covenant found me, so that was a little awkward. But eventually, I made it to the temple where everyone ignored me to run inside so I could start taking them out with no resistance. I triggered a cutscene where Chief walks all cool until High Charity shows up and he looks flummoxed. Then after the cutscene, a whole lot more Covenant spawn in who I needed to hang back and take out. Because after they're all cleared, I could run up to the side of the temple and do this. And from there, I could get into the temple early with no one around. What this does is let you set up spawn traps and prepare the boss fight in advance. So I punched some boxes around and placed some pedestals. It's very important to put them all in front of these doors so you don't have to worry at all about respawning elites. I'd never done this before, which certainly slowed me down, but all in all, this setup took me about 25 minutes. I ran back and checked all my work, and there was one box I thought I should try to adjust slightly. And just like that, I lost my shields. I was ready to start the fight, so I had to go back and open the door the game expected me to be coming from, and then the enemy started spawning. A couple of elites spawn initially, but after you kill them, no more should spawn in because of the traps. And the spawn traps up top should start trapping new grunts. Now, the issue I ran into was that before even doing the setup, I made a grave mistake. The weapons I brought into the temple with me were a rocket launcher and a plasma pistol. I didn't have a battle rifle or carbine or anything to just headshot enemies with. I ended up getting cornered by one of the first elites that spawned in, and yeah. At this point, I was not a happy camper. So I once again had to kill the enemies outside, then do the crazy jump up to get inside, then set up the room and punch boxes. Okay, let's try it again. This time I did have a BR, so I could easily take out the honor guards and the grunts, and I started beating Regret. On legendary difficulty, it takes 5 boards to kill him. I boarded him a second time, then a third, then a fourth, and finally a 5th time. He didn't die. Maybe I miscounted. Okay, let's do it a 6th time. Nope, still alive. My next guess was that the Mythic Skull, you know, it doubles enemy health, so maybe that meant I needed 10 boards rather than 5. So there's 7, 8, 9, and all right, here we go, 10. He's still alive. What I eventually learned is that you have to nade board him, where you throw a grenade at the same moment you board, which puts the grenade under his shield or something like that. Because of the spawn traps, it was just me and Regret, so I had all day and no pressure. But okay, after the 5th nade board, he finally died, and that's Regret, the worst mission since Cairo. In actual playtime, it took me almost 3 hours. My victory was cut short because there was a giant ship overhead. That's not very good. Master Chief runs past the Golden Moa and into the water below, where he apparently doesn't know how to swim, and a couple tentacles get him. Meanwhile, in distant space, i.e. right outside the Halo ring, the Arbiter is walking around and sees the elites giving up their honor guard status to the brutes, and the prophets tell the Arbiter he needs to get the index so they can activate Halo and ascend to godhood. Do they not know that Halo kills everyone? Are they stupid? Tartarus drops off the Arbiter at the Sentinel Wall, and it's our job to make it from here to the library. And it's funny because this terrible level is, for all intents and purposes, just the library to Electric Boogaloo. But yeah, so this first part of the level is easy. You just run through and there's sentinels you can easily avoid. You get to this big room where you shoot some things and hit some buttons and lower a shield or something like that. Look at the lore! There's this big guy called an Enforcer you gotta take out, then you run past everyone and do a jump up on this ledge and run past some more Flood, because Miranda, like an idiot, sent all her Marines here to get infected. I ran past even more Flood, then did this jump that was actually pretty tricky. But you can follow that up with a grenade jump that skips triggers, so there's only a couple Flood here, so even though I alerted a couple of the Flood behind me, I think I'm fine if I just keep going. I can make it to the next part. I lied. Okay, I got past it, then I got past this other part that's kind of like a half outdoor section. It's really cool, but you can just run past everyone there. Then in this room, there's a lot of Flood, but they're all human forms, and you can just one-shot them if you hit them just right, so I killed everybody, although it did take a bit. Then I ran past more guys, and this mission really sucks. If you can't tell, I hate it. And okay, we're out and down to this piston. I fell down, and after punching popcorn to regain shields, I bolted ahead to the final piston and the way out, and in not much time at all had achieved snow. The end of this level, again, I just had to kill guys. guys. Nothing interesting happened. You just kill Flood and wait for a Phantom. We did it. Halfjog gives an epic speech to make up for the unfunness of the previous level, and I began this one, Quarantine Zone, by team killing my own elites for shields and hopping in a ghost. This is a driving level and a very easy one at that, although I did mess up a couple times and die. But yeah, there's like not even anything to show. You can literally just drive in a ghost past everything, including in the parts where you're not supposed to have a ghost. It's very easy to get it inside places. So yeah, I just drove until I made it to the final gondola. And then on the final gondola, you can get out of bounds where the Flood can't attack you very easily. So I did that, waited 5 minutes for us to reach the library, then hopped down and made it into the library to trigger the end of the level. The Arbiter runs into Johnson and Miranda in a crossover that was very hyped to me as a child. Then Tartarus shows up and is like, I'm a bad guy actually, and expels Arbiter to the Shadow Realm. Arby and the Chief are picked up by a giant Venus flytrap who explains to them that Truth is a bad guy and they need to team up to stop him, and he teleports them away. We cut to High Charity where Jason Jones just got out of the shower, Master Chief appears in the throne room, and the level you've all been waiting for begins. Yep. My second try I actually got to cover before dying and was able to super combine the first brute, causing the second one to freak out and make it easy to super combine him too. After that, a bunch of grunts spawned and my strategy was to backsmack them all for shields. I expected to die trying this, but I actually made it through my first attempt. But after killing the last grunt, I had to quickly run and get in position. Because if you sit in a nook against this pedestal and wait a bit, you can actually do a despawn. Now, the problem is you have to sit here for a specific amount of time, and I realized as I was doing it, I didn't know how much time that was, so I just guessed. And fortunately for me, the despawn worked and I skipped one of the enemy waves entirely, jumping straight to the Brute Captain wave where he has a Brute Shot, which was also the single worst fight of the entire playthrough. The problem is that at this point, I only had a plasma rifle, a Needler with not that much ammo, and I think 3 plasma grenades. The issue with the Needler is that since the enemies are invisible, it doesn't even track unless I shoot them first with the plasma rifle. Also, as I learned, the Super Combine doesn't even kill the Chieftain. So at first I was just trying to get Needler kills, then my strategy progressed. You know what, I'll just show you all the times I died here.
Oh!
21 deaths. Just on that checkpoint, there was still more stuff to do after. I actually screwed up another despawn, or that would have been it, but I instead had to fight more guys. But now, at least for the last wave of guys, I had a carbine, and I died a couple more times, but I was past the hard part. After looking at Cortana's feat, I made my way through the next couple areas, which wasn't hard at all because unlike elites, brutes are easily headshotable, and I had a fully loaded carbine. I got killed by a single grunt at one point, which was pretty embarrassing. But yeah, just working my way through and killing bad guys, just had to take my time. At this point, I was a seasoned LASO veteran, and I made sure to recharge my shields here because up next is the lift to the prison. Not to brag, but what you're about to see, I pulled off my first try. Although my understanding is that the way I did it isn't 100% consistent, even if you do it right. But basically, you bait the brute to walk into the thing, and he goes up, then you step in, and he's above you. You go down the lift, and once you hit the load, you can start melee canceling or butterflying off him to get up the lift. That skips the entire prison section, and once at the top, you're greeted by Marines for some reason. I tried to do this next room how you're supposed to and kill everything, and that wasn't going too well. I died here many times too, probably as many as in the first room. There are a few white elites and a bunch of drones. It's really hard. After over half an hour of this, I adapted and ran past everyone instead, making sure to head glitch at times since I didn't have camo, and this worked. Outside, you can literally just run up and avoid everyone and go down here where there's no bad guys and take a lift and run up here and down here and get to this room where you grenade jump past everything. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough overshield and died. And then I learned I didn't have a checkpoint and had to do all that over again. But okay, next attempt I got my overshield by punching out a couple brutes, and the grenade jump that time didn't kill me. The next part is easy because there's just a bunch of panic and grunts and easily avoidable berserking brutes. I also learned this brute shot jump that lets you skip a trigger and run through the next outdoor area with no enemies whatsoever. This is a very boring level in my opinion after prison skip. Like from here on out, I just had to slowly kill enemies until I made it to the mausoleum of the Arbiter where the elites and brutes start fighting and Breaking Benjamin kicks in. You'd probably expect this to be a really tough and engaging fight, but instead I just noped out and ran back until I got here and waited and waited and waited some more for 12 minutes until finally I pushed onto the mausoleum where the door to advance and end the level would be open. You have got to be kidding. Okay, my second try, I unloaded all over the White Elite and made it past the Mausoleum, which concludes the Grave Grind. Monkey Man escorts Johnson and Miranda to a Phantom, Mercy gets eaten by a popcorn, and Truth says to let it happen and not help, which doesn't send off any alarm bells to Mr. T about him being bad because he's dumb. And we cut to the Halo ring where Arbiter has been teleported almost to Halo's control center. Uprising starts with an easy jump that I failed at first, which was pretty embarrassing. And even here I didn't do it right, but basically you jump up and backsmack this brute that comes around for shields. Then you run back to the start and do one big old nade jump followed by another big old nade jump, and you just skip this entire fight. I didn't look at guides or anything for the rest of the level. It's another brute level. It's easy. Just shoot the bad guys and don't die. Which is good strategy for Halo as a whole, really. Just shoot the bad guys and don't die. There was this grunt who begged me not to hurt him that I then beat to death for shields. The staircase bit was kind of tedious, but just required patience. One more room with Covenant, and then we find ourselves outside. After killing everyone out here, you can jump up to this tree and do a super easy jump. After killing everyone, you can jump up to this tree and do a super easy jump up from there that lets you get on top of the map and hit the level in trigger early, skipping the entire vehicle section. So that's Uprising. Meanwhile, back on High Charity, Cortana and Chief are game planning when a drunk driver drops off a bunch of flood and the appropriately named level High Charity begins. I was considering learning a trick called HC skip to skip this level entirely, but I was assured by my advisor, Rossick 101, that this level wasn't very bad. And it turned out he was correct. It's another level that just requires patience. Patiently killing enemies, patiently running past guys when able, taking time to punch these flood sacks on the floor to regen shields. I don't want to sound like I'm just blowing through the level and not talking about it, but there's literally like nothing to talk about. I did a brute shot jump that was kind of cool. That's about it. It only took me about 20 minutes to get through, and probably half of that time was just waiting. Like here. Literally just standing and waiting for a door to open. At the very end, there's this light beam thing that connects to the Forerunner ship, and I never knew this before, but you can actually jump up on it and run to the end. Master Chief boards the ship, and Cortana takes one for the team and stays behind. And that's it for Master Chief's side of the story, but I still have one level left. I was told by my advisor that this was also an easy level, and spoiler alert, this level took me 2 hours. Let's go over why. The start of the level's easy. You team kill an elite for shields and take the Spectre and then drive past everyone. There's a door with a bunch of enemies in front of it, including a couple wraiths, but if you drive close to it and then turn around and drive a little ways back, all the enemies in front of the door despawn. So just like that, I'm already a decent way into the level. I had hunters, which is cool because they take a lot of damage for you. Outdoors, I died because I got blown off the map, so that was cool. But yeah, this one was mostly just another take my time, get headshots, kill guys. I didn't learn until after my run through that there is a skip you can do here, but whatever. It was easy enough to kill everyone out here and then clear the prison. And then outside you kill the brutes, Johnson boards a Scarab, and we agree to team up. There's a despawn you can hit by just turning around after the cutscene and hitting a load zone, and I flew a Banshee down to grab the Spectre again from earlier. This Spectre I not only took back to where I started, but even further. You can drive it up the mountain and over the control room and get it here where I waited for Johnson. This is from the Halo 2 legendary speedrun record by Zoo. Using the Spectre, you can actually duplicate Sergeant Johnson. You get a bunch of Johnsons all sniping Tartarus at once, making the boss fight go much faster. So after Johnson blew open the doors, I let the Spectre slide off, and if everything goes correctly, my Spectre should be in the control room where I can use it for the trick. Well, the Spectre did make it in, but the problem was, it blew up. Like, it spawned into the room blown up. I don't know what happened. I tried fighting Tartarus without it, but yeah, that wasn't happening. So I restarted the level, and I did all of that again. Drive the Spectre, kill some brutes, kill these guys, free the prison, despawn, fly the Banshee, except this time I stayed in the Banshee because instead of the Spectre thing, you can bring in the Banshee, which is slower because you can't duplicate Johnson's, but still a lot safer and easier than the Spectre method. So okay, Johnson blew open the door and I let the Banshee fall in to hit the trigger. Good news, the Banshee did not blow up. Instead, it just wasn't there. I then learned that if you're doing this with the Banshee and not the Spectre, you have to hit the trigger from a different spot. And you know what that means? Well, as they say, third time's the charm. Let's see what horrible way I'll botch it this time. You'd probably expect me to get better at this level with all the times I had to play it, but I actually got worse. I had by far my most deaths this attempt versus the first two. I don't know why, I just couldn't kill things without dying. But okay, I'm back in the Banshee. Johnson's blowing open the doors. Please, for the love of God, just work. Okay, if that didn't work, like seriously, you probably would not be watching this video right now. So with that, the boss fight is easy. You just let Johnson snipe him to lower his shields and just continuously shoot him with the Banshee. He does get brute reinforcements periodically though that you do have to watch out for. But yeah, that's it. All in all, that took me about 17 hours of playing. It sucked and I didn't enjoy it, but I did get an achievement out of it, so that's cool. And you people don't have to ask me when I'm doing Halo 2 LASO anymore. I did it. It's done. Over. Thanks again to Nord for sponsoring this video. Seriously, check them out. VPNs are important. And shout out to my patrons whose names are on the screen. I'll catch you next time.